story of Jamaican cannabis is set to hit our digital and traditional spaces next year. Joining us this morning to tell us more about one of the most anticipated documentaries, Cannex founder Douglas Gordon. Morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Smile. It's good to have you. I apologize for all the off-camera shenanigans. That's not how we usually are.
That's unfortunate. That's quite entertaining.
That's how we usually are. Welcome to Smile. This is interesting. This is exciting. Are we ready for this?
Absolutely. I mean, the world is ready for this. And I think part of what we have to process and understand is that the world is much further along in being receptive, curious, and really engaged around cannabis, what cannabis can do for the human body, what it can do for the mind from a therapeutic perspective. And so what we're really trying to do through this production is connect all of this global progress to, Jamaica. And the role that Jamaica has played is really far outsized in its influence. A lot of it's cultural, a lot of it's obviously musical. But the Jamaican story of ganja, and just the use of that word, which we've sort of, as we got legal, we stopped using the word. It became cannabis, and cannabis is a word, but ganja is a uniquely Jamaican concept. And so I think it's really important to put the power back into that word and the pride.
What, Douglas? That's really an interesting point. We've dressed it up, made it fancy, put it in a three-piece suit, called it cannabis.
Yeah.
Right? But really, it's ganja, trenches.
Let me tell you, when this market started to go legal globally, and I go to all these different conferences, one of the key things you would always hear is that flower is a commodity, right? So it's all about finished products, it's all about refined, uses of cannabis, right? And so we all accepted that. But the only flower around the world that is a finished product is Jamaican ganja. You could have a dispensary in Germany, and if you say, over there we have Jamaican ganja, you don't need to explain what it is. Peter Tosh, Bob Marley, all these musical icons, the Rastafarian culture, all of that sort of owned. It did all the explanation for us. And it's just time that we start to recognize that if we don't take this seriously, we're taking this wonderful asset that has been built. And I don't mean to put it in the context of just economic benefit. I'm talking about, when Bob Marley and Peter Tosh spoke about ganja, it wasn't cool. They were putting their own visas and so forth at potential risk.
Yeah.
But this was important to them.
We talk about geotagging things and geolocators, and we talk about jerk as one of those for Jamaica, but ganja really is one too. We've kind of dropped the ball on this.
We've absolutely dropped the ball.
Yeah.
And it's terrible.
Do you explore that aspect in the documentary?
Yeah, one of the things we look at is, yes, the cultural and musical heritage, but we also tell the story, through what we host here in Jamaica at Cannex. But all these people from around the world who've come to Jamaica and who are doing work all around the world, but this becomes that sort of central reference point through it all, And I think it's very important that we, in the Caribbean in particular, who've been so, I don't want to call it conservative, because I really think that there's been this sort of bury your head in the sand approach to cannabis, where people have given it to their children or grandmas have given it to their families. And then we sort of pretend, no, it's bad. It's a bad thing. No, we've had the benefit of the therapeutic benefits for eons.
In the tea, in the oils, So let me ask you, why did you think it was important, with all this history you've given, to tell this story now?
Well, I'll be straightforward. I feel very blessed in that, all the work that we've done with the conference to bring people here and elevate this conversation.
That's what Cannex is, right?
That's what Cannex is.
For those who don't know.
It's really Elvira Guzman, who's based in LA. So she's been to Cannex before, but it was her idea to say, why don't you create a documentary around this? And, the idea just came together so readily. But yeah, and I support it 100% because I've always been someone to advocate for what happens in this space.
Yeah.
And as much as in the beginning, people were like, on what grounds do you have to talk about ganja?
Is that what they asked you?
That's not what they asked me. That's what they said in some not so lovely language. But it was a fair assessment.
And why not you?
Look, at heart, I'm a Caribbean person. I want to see the Caribbean thrive. I want to see the Caribbean people prosper. And ganja represents something that we have here in the Caribbean and right here in Jamaica that a lot of blood, sweat, and tears have fallen for. And so the idea of it not being taken seriously, the idea of it not being put on a professional and a serious platform to really get the benefit of that, to me is it's not okay. And what I see in a population of 3 million people here in Jamaica, with 5 million plus tourists coming annually, and a world that recognizes Jamaica for what it's done for ganja. You're talking about being able to change people's lives in this country like no other industry. The economic benefit that can come from even 10% of those tourists actively consuming cannabis. And I don't mean just smoking. Right. I mean in terms of massage and spa, aromatherapy services that infuse cannabis. These are all research, education, these are all ancillary opportunities that if we really embrace, Jamaica has an opportunity to change this $4,000 to $5,000 GDP per capita into a real number that people can have a real quality of life.
Started filming last year at the 5th annual Canex. You're going to be finishing the filming this year. When is the 6th Canex?
It's October 20th and 21st.
So you're launching there?
Yes.
In Vegas?
Well, no, we're going to launch it here, and then we're going to have an event in Vegas, which is
November.
For Marley 1, and we'll bring ganja into it.
And so some of the people featured in the documentary, I see Graham Smorgon, First Man Bushman, Anthony Anderson, the Marleys, members of Parliament, and many others. Yeah, and they're telling stories about their own interaction with the products, and then the politicians will be speaking from a politician standpoint.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, there's some folks who've already been interviewed. Yeah. And, one in particular, Babsy Grange was talking about her mother's experience. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, this is the whole thing that we miss. There's this very sort of, standoff, esoteric kind of perspective, but it's a very real thing that affects people's lives. You have, folks who will tell you about their 60, 70-year-old grandmother who has to choose about which kids to play with because of the aches and pains. Yeah. She has CBD or she has some cannabis rub, and all of a sudden she has back movement of all her body without the pain. So, there's theoretical, there's conceptual, but there's also very practical.
Is it education and a little bit of advocacy, you think?
Totally. Yeah. But it's through the lens and through the voice of people talking about their own experiences.
Correct, gotcha.
And then we also have in there, global leaders, like people who are doing work in a regulatory environment, from a scientific perspective, a medical application, all around the world. And so again, they've come to Jamaica because Jamaica is not just, a pretty island in the Caribbean everybody wants to visit, but it has this, there's a sort of groundedness in coming back to Jamaica and saying, I had this conversation in Jamaica. Yeah. And even if my work is in Japan or my work is in Germany, a big part of me feeling whole, like I'm really a part of this, is that I did this in Jamaica.
It's the authenticity.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
That's what it is. So you launch in October, you air here in October, big launch in November. January, the rest of us get to see it?
January, we will launch it. We will have a series of markets that we'll go into. We really want to do this at a very high level. We've been fortunate so far as, securing different partners. PRI Wellness is one who's really backed us for this. And that's a Jamaican-owned businessman, Omar Barnard, who's based in LA. Okay. But we want more partners, who can really help us to take this forward. We think we'll have the quality, and we'll have the content that will really tell this story in a powerful way, and make sure that it's not just, we have to also be careful because we want to make sure this story covers the full gamut of participants in this industry, and that starts all the way from the legacy farmers through to the indigenous communities of Rastafari, all the way through to, bankers and politicians that you talk about that have the ability to change this narrative and broaden the conversation.
And policies. Gotcha, Douglas. Sounds interesting. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, good.
Thank you so much for being here to share this with us this morning. Canex founder, Douglas Gordon, talking to us. And the name of the documentary is?
It's Got Ganja.
It's Got Ganja.
No, just Got Ganja.
Oh, I knew that. Got Ganja, that's what I said. Right, Nev? That's not what I said. Got Ganja. All right, thanks, Douglas. Appreciate it. Coming up next, we have a fun stop, a funner stop, because we've been having fun all morning. We're back with more on Smile.